All right, let's talk about Lost. For years, people have debated this show, right? Well, today, we're going to crack open its secret source code. We're going to uncover a hidden philosophical blueprint that I think explains pretty much everything. So yeah, let's decode Lost.
I mean, think about all those huge questions we were left with. First up, who were Jacob and his mysterious brother? You know, these two immortal guys, one dressed in light, one in dark, seemingly locked in this eternal game forever?
And what about the island's glowing heart? This source they talked about. The source of life, death, and rebirth? What was that all about?
And maybe the biggest question of all, why did the whole thing feel like it was just happening over and over again? A repeating cycle, you know? New candidates show up, they have the same kinds of conflicts, and then the show literally ends with the exact same shot it began with. It's wild. But what if I told you the answers aren't hidden in the show's script, but in a book that was written almost 400 years ago? Okay, so to solve this whole puzzle, we've got to start where the show's creators themselves told us to start. They actually pointed to one specific visionary author as the key, the one who unlocks the island's entire mythology.
And that author? None other than the legendary science fiction prophet Philip K. Dick. Damon Lindelof, one of the creators, has been super clear about this. He said over and over that P.K. Dick's, his totally mind-bending ideas about reality and God and illusion, all of that was a massive, massive influence in the writers.
See, the thing about Philip K. Dick is he wasn't just writing cool sci-fi stories. He actually said it himself. He was a philosopher who was using fiction to try and figure out the truth. And he was completely obsessed with this thing called Gnosticism. It's this ancient belief system that basically says our world is, well, it's kind of a prison created by a false god. And our true reality is something else, something hidden that we have to awaken to.
So just think about that for a second. The idea of being thrown into an alien world. I mean, that is the literal starting point for every single survivor of Oceanic 815, right? They crash land into this totally inexplicable reality and have to scramble to figure out the rules of this terrifying new world. That is pure 100% Philip K. Dick. But here's the twist. His ideas, they came from somewhere else too. So that brings us to the next big question. If Philip K. Dick is the key to unlocking Lost, then who was the key to unlocking Philip K. Dick? I mean, where did he get all these wild Gnostic ideas from?
Well, it turns out PKD's whole worldview was really heavily shaped by a much older and way more obscure figure. We're talking about a German mystic who was writing about warring cosmic principles and, get this, inverted realities centuries before science fiction was even a thing.
His name was Jakob Böhme. Now, he was technically a theologian, but his ideas were, let's just say, radical for the time. He didn't see God as this simple, all-good, all-powerful being. No. For Böhme, God himself contained a duality, a dark, fiery principle and a light, loving principle. And he believed all of reality, everything, was born from their eternal struggle.
And this is where it all comes together. Seriously, once you understand Böhme's core concepts, the biggest mysteries of Lost just snap into perfect focus. It's almost like we've stumbled upon the island's secret metaphysical instruction manual.
And we can actually break this down into 6 core ideas, 6 direct parallels between Jakob Böhme's theology and the story of Lost. So let's just walk through them one by one, and you'll see what I mean.
Okay, first up, the Bipartite God. And the parallel here is, it's not subtle, it's incredibly literal. Böhme's idea of God as a single entity with 2 warring sides, a no and a yes, well, that is perfectly dramatized as Jacob and the Man in Black. Their struggle isn't just some random plot device. It's the cosmic engine that drives the entire story.
And this also explains where those 2 brothers even came from in the first place. For Böhme, before you had the yes and the no, there was something he called the Ungrund, which basically means the groundless. It's this formless abyss of pure potential. And what do we find on Lost? Before Jacob and his brother, there was the glowing heart of the island, the source from which everything else emerges. It's the exact same idea.
Which brings us to evil. Böhme argued that this dark, fiery principle wasn't a mistake, It wasn't some outside invader like Satan. It was an essential part of the whole system, absolutely necessary for things like choice and love to even exist. And now think back. What did the island's mother tell Jacob? That the same darkness inside the Man in Black, it exists in everyone. Evil isn't some external force. It's intrinsic. It's a necessary part of the cosmic balance.
And the parallels just keep on coming. Böhme believed that our world, the one we live in, is basically a distorted, inverted mirror image of a higher, truer reality. So, what happens in Season 6 of Lost? We get the flash sideways, right? A literal mirror world afterlife where all the characters have to awaken to the truth of their real lives before they can move on. It's the same concept.
Then there's the idea of the eternal cycle. For Böhme, history wasn't a straight line from A to B. It was a repeating wheel, a constant cycle of falling and then being restored. And really, what is Lost if not a story about cycles? New candidates are always brought to the island. Protectors rise and fall, and the whole series, the entire thing, begins with Jack's eye opening and ends with it closing. It perfectly bookends a single loop in what might be an endlessly repeating cosmic wheel.
So you have to ask, how does the cycle ever change or break? Well, for Böhme, it happens when that dark fire isn't destroyed, but transmuted, changed. And look at Lost. Jack's death isn't just a tragic ending. By sacrificing himself right there in the heart of the island, he basically absorbs both the light and the dark, reconciling those two warring principles. And what does that do? It allows a new, more compassionate protector, Hurley of all people, to take over and finally break that violent cycle.
So when you put it all together, the picture becomes, well, it's pretty undeniable. You have these ancient, incredibly complex, mystical ideas from a 17th century shoemaker that get filtered through the mind of a brilliant 20th century sci-fi visionary, and then they become one of the biggest pop culture phenomena of the 21st century. It's just an amazing journey for an idea.
So the big takeaway here is this. The core metaphysical engine of Lost, it's all driven by Jakob Böhme's theology. Philip K. Dick was the crucial bridge for sure, but Böhme, he was the original architect. It just goes to show you, so many of our most modern myths are actually built on the foundations of our most ancient philosophies.
And really, that just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If a 400-year-old mystical text is the secret source code for a show like Lost, what other ancient blueprints are hiding out there in plain sight, embedded in the stories we love and watch every single day? Makes you wonder, what else are we missing?